This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
How would you like to get more customers, make more profits, and have bigger breakthroughs? Get Doberman Dan's profit-boosting breakthroughs. Normally, this would cost you $98 per month, but right now, for listening to this show, he's giving you a free copy of his Doberman Dan letter. All you have to do is go to DobermanDan.com and sign up to get your free copy now.
Prepare yourself for the uncensored, nothing held back, no BS reality of how business and life really work. Doberman Dan is off the chain.
Well, there you go again. I loved Reagan. Do you even remember Reagan? That was way before your time. Do you remember him at all?
Of course. Yeah, I remember Just Say No with Nancy Reagan.
Just Say No.
Yeah, that was what it is. Your brain and your brain on drugs. That was all around the same time, right?
Yep, all around the same time. I loved Ronald Reagan. Not for political reasons. I was a kid. I just didn't know anything about anything. But I just found him really amusing. I just loved all the funny things he did. The only one I'm thinking of at this time right now is, so old Ron was losing his hearing, and he and Nancy they had just exited a plane and were walking down the old red carpet, and a reporter is firing questions at him, and he's like cupped his hand over his ear, and it's obvious like he's doing that thing, and it's obvious he didn't understand what was being said. But Nancy she answers, and she says, "We're doing the best we can." And boom, like right behind, as soon as she finished that sentence, Ronnie was like, "Well, we're doing the best we can." It was like, it was obvious he didn't hear the question, but he just picked up on Nancy. I found all of that so amusing when I was a kid. It was only later that after I became an entrepreneur that one of his little Ronnieisms made sense. And that was his saying, "Trust, but verify." Which really, I mean, if we analyze that, Jonathan, it's really saying trust no one, right?
Yeah, of course.
And if you want evidence of why that's probably a good idea, I mean, there's plenty. First of all, do you really know what you're eating? I mean, do you think you know what you're eating? You know what you're told you're eating, but here's what I discovered. 19% of the fish we eat, they're not what we're told they are. So here in the good old US of A, grouper, snapper, and salmon, well, it's often not grouper, snapper, or salmon that you're eating, in spite of what it may say at the grocery store or on the menu. It's a pretty good chance that you're actually eating Asian catfish, which actually they use that as a substitute for like 18 different varieties of fish. In Greece, it's even worse. In Greece, there are 66 different species of fish that can all be called grouper. And here's the super gross one. Do you like squid? Have you ever eaten squid?
Yeah, calamari.
Calamari. So you like calamari, do you? Well, guess what? Often gets passed off as calamari. Cleaned pig rectum. So you're chomping down on a big old delicious piece of calamari. Next time you're doing that, just think, you know what? I might be eating cleaned pig rectum. Nuts.
How do they get away with that?
So there really aren't strong regulations governing this sort of fraudulent fish activity going on. I mean, most of these food rules are more concerned with safety, not so much truth in advertising. You want more proof that Ronnie was right with the trust but verify? You only have to look at good old Wells Fargo Bank. So they recently settled a fraud case for $190 million. And here was the crime. Bank employees were getting paid bonuses for signing customers up for accounts. But what a lot of the employees were doing was they'd create extra accounts for customers customers that they already had. They create extra accounts for them without the customer's permission or even notifying the customer they were doing this. $190 million to settle that fraud case. So here's another one, another backup for Trust But Verify. Remember when we started hearing about MRSA a few years ago, the drug-resistant infection MRSA?
Yeah.
Have you heard much about that recently?
No.
Didn't it seem to just kind of like peter out? And all of a sudden we're not hearing about it. Well, one day it's like, the biggest health crisis in the world, and all of a sudden we're not hearing about it. Well, it's not necessarily because it's less of a threat than it was. It's because MRSA deaths aren't being reported. So a new study found that in most cases, MRSA deaths are basically just getting swept under the rug. Sometimes it's because of carelessness in filling out death certificates. Sometimes it's just a disconnect between the doctors and the coroner reporters. Sometimes it could even be just fraud for the hospitals, which is where most people contract at, for the hospitals to avoid embarrassment or insurance problems or malpractice suits. Since MRSA is contracted in hospitals mostly, but people show up at the hospital for other issues, it's really easy to attribute the cause of death to the other issues. So, I guess if you want evidence that Trust But Verify is a good idea, I mean, just look all around you. There doesn't seem to be much trust at all these days. I'm going to tell you one area where it's just absolutely essential. And that's when we're talking about business. So for some reason, when it comes to money, this Trust But Verify thing is really good advice. All of a sudden, when you introduce money into the equation, even logical, sensible people with good reputation just seem to lose their minds. So Trust But Verify. So I learned this lesson a little late in my business career. I've had the opportunity to learn this lesson several painful times, like the two different gurus who hired me for gigs to write copy and didn't pay, or didn't pay what was promised, didn't pay, period. Deals I've done with partners who gladly took 50% of the money, but maybe did 10% of the work, if even that. What recently reminded me of this was one of my coaching clients was lamenting the fact that one of the vendors wasn't giving his business the attention that he felt that they should give it. Well, yeah, there's a good reason for that, because your business is not their business. They're focused on their business. You're hiring them for certain services. They are never going to give your business the same amount of focus and attention that you give your business. You can never surrender that stuff to vendors, to freelancers, to employees, to contractors. It's your business. I mean, I know we all want to farm stuff out, and we like the idea of outsourcing, so we can live this the 4-hour work week, live on the beach with a laptop lifestyle. But here's the thing: it's your business. Yes, you can outsource that stuff. Ultimately, the buck still stops with you. You have to verify constantly. You can never let your guard down that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, what they said they would be doing, what you hired them to do. So therefore, this Ronald Reaganism, trust but verify, I mean, it's just good advice, I think, in general. But when it comes to your business, when it comes to your money, it's absolutely essential. Nobody is going to treat your business like you treat it. Nobody is going to be as concerned about your stuff as you are. So a big thanks to old Ronald Reagan for that trust but verify, which by the way, he probably got that from somebody else. Do you know where that originally came from, Jonathan?
Where?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
No, I thought you had it right up your sleeve.
No, I'm just assuming he got it from somebody else. But it's always attributed to Ronald Reagan. And I guess, you can look at that as being extremely jaded. And maybe you can look at that it is saying trust no one. But it's not exactly saying that, is it? It's saying trust, but verify. I'm here to tell you, you can never stop verifying. Never.
I like that. Due diligence. That's what we call it. Due diligence in business. And I like the idea too. This is one of the secrets that I have, Dan, and I'm glad that you're bringing it up. And I'm not trying to take over your show here, but one of the secrets that I've had to attracting and keeping and working with the absolute best mentors out there is trust but verify. And the way I do it is I trust you enough to buy a low-level product, use your product, see if it works. And if it does, then I move on to other products. If it doesn't, I forget about you. So I trust but verify. And that's how you and I are working together. Ben Settle, anybody I've ever worked with, you guys have proven yourselves over and over and over again.
That's a good observation. I've discovered something that backs that up too. When you start a new business relationship, now that I think about it, really, this applies to any relationship, but we're talking about business stuff. When you start a new business relationship with somebody, in my experience now, and I'm 3 decades into this stuff at this point, when it starts out a tiny, teeny, tad bit hinky for some reason, like the person says they're going to do something by such and such a date, and it's not done by them, but it's done 24 hours later, just for example. Or they say, they're going to call you at such and such a date. When it starts out and those little things are not right, it only gets worse. It never, ever gets better. So there's another example of trust but verify. You're just starting a relationship with somebody, and all of a sudden, the first thing they do is not follow through and don't do what they promise. My best advice, again, I could be wrong. I'm often wrong. But this has been my 30 years of experience. This has never been proven wrong. The best thing you could do is extricate yourself from that relationship post haste, because it's only gonna get worse. Trust but verify, my brothers and sisters.
I got another example that you just reminded me of, and it's the way that I call it my Thunderdome team building over here at the Podcast Factory. Thunderdome, 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. And when I hire new contractors, so that we have plenty of people working behind the scenes, I trust them when they apply for the job and they say they can do things. And I put multiple of them working inside one Google Drive folder so they know that there's others working on it. And hey, here's the work. Here's your competition. Go do what you do. And some people will elevate their game because they know there's competition out there, and other people will just crumble and fall. And that's actually one of the tips to anybody listening. If you want to hire people, hire them before you need them, test them, and verify that they can do what they say they can do before you actually put them in the game.
That's good advice. That's kind of like digging your well before you're thirsty. Now you've got a stable of proven performers for when you reach a time when you really do need them.
Because you know how it is, right? How many times, Dan, have you hired somebody when you needed them and the shit hit the fan and you got stuck because it was your business you got stuck holding?
Yeah, that's never an ideal situation when you're under the gun and have to hire somebody that you don't have a personal track record with. Oftentimes that does not work out well.
Even with, I've had the same experience with, and we've talked about it privately, but never publicly, like the coaching and the people that you do business with on that level as well. Sure, they paint a pretty picture for you. They're family people. They're everything you want to be. Then you get close to them and you've given them tens of thousands of dollars and they're not at all what you thought they were going to be.
That's an issue in our little world. It's fairly easy to turn yourself into an expert. There's really a handful of promotion strategies, and people become experts without having any experience whatsoever in what they're positioned as an expert. So, another instance of trust but verify. Maybe before you hire the dude to do something that he's an expert in, perhaps you should find out if he's really had any experience in it. Because I know a ton of people who are promoting themselves as marketing experts, and their only marketing experience has been marketing themselves as a marketing expert.
experts without the experience. So they're just spurts.
They're just spurts. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. I mean, I hope, and this is one of the things that you're working on. I hope that we can shine a light on more of that stuff and help people wake up, because that's a problem in our industry. And well, it's probably, it's even in real estate. It's in every industry, but I like for us to be able to get people back and focused to what matters and doing the basics, just like you taught me when we started working together, the shit that actually works and moves a dial.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Dan, anything else? I hijacked half your show because I wanted to talk shit about people without naming any names.
You did. It's fun to talk shit.
But anything else that you want to talk about in Trust But Verify, or can we give a teaser of what's coming up next time?
I'll just give a teaser about what's coming up next time. I'm going to talk about the truth about your college education.
Uh-oh.
I want to change the title. Actually, I want to change the title since I am not highly educated myself. I want to change it to the truth about your college education.
Perfect. The truth about your college education. All right. So looking forward to that. Thank you, Canine Crew, for tuning in. Thank you, Dan, for letting me have a little slice of your show, and we'll be back in your earbuds next time. Thanks for listening. And remember, if you want to create rivers of revenue from your existing customers, then the next thing you need to do is go to DobermanDan.com. He's giving away a free copy of his $98 per month Doberman Dan letter just for listening to the show. Go to DobermanDan.com now and sign up for your free issue.
This is the podcastfactory.com.